Okay, so welcome back to the third Haskell video in our Haskell series. First of all, we got some feedback on the last two videos, and that said that the text was too hard to see, and so I've gone ahead and I've zoomed in both on the text and both in the terminal. So hopefully this will be much easier to see now. See what's going on, and I also need to say something about what I said in the last video. I said that strings are not a thing in Haskell, and that is simply not true. Although a list of characters and strings, they are basically the same thing. It's just different ways to look at it, basically. Okay, so moving on to the video. I've gone ahead and I have declared some lists here. We have one list here named x, and which is basically a list of integers, and they are 1, 8, 5, 2, and 6. And then we have another list named y, which is also a list of integers. And they are the elements 2, 3, 7, 1, and 8. And then I have two lists of characters, which are both A, B, C, D, E, and F. They are just different ways to write it. These are the same thing. If I were to write here in the terminal C equals C2, I would get true back because they are the same. And then I have a lonely little integer here in the bottom, which is for an example later, and that is just Z equal to 5. Okay, so in today's video, I'm gonna go through some built-in functions, which are basically used to manipulate lists to your advantage. They can basically change the lists, they can remove a few elements, or maybe add lists together. You will see as we go on. So the first two functions that I will go through, it's head and tail, and of course they are quite telling. Let's say that I did head on our list of integers here, x, and then I would get the first element of the list. I would basically get the head of the list, and that is the element 1. See, I get a 1. I can also use this on a list of characters. That's no worse. So let's say I use it on C. I will get the character A. And basically the opposite of this is tail, which basically will give me everything but the first element. So when I used it here on the list X, I got everything but the first element. So that's 8, 5, 2, and 6. And you see I got 8, 5, 6. And then we also have two other functions, which are basically the opposite of head and tail. So this is last and init, which are basically the opposite. Let's say I use this last on this list y here. Then I would get 8, which is the last element, which is also quite telling. And then init, of course, is then a reverse tail, basically. So it's basically the first elements, but everything but the last. So if I did that on this y here, I would get everything up to the last element. And I'll just give you a quick example of how we could use this together. Let's say that we did head of tail of the tail of x. So let's just try and think of this. It works inwards and out. So it goes, the tail of x is these four, right? We skip the first. And then it goes the tail of that, which is skipping the first again. And then we go the head of that. So we should see it return 5 here, which it does. So this is basically a way to manipulate lists and basically retrieve elements from within those lists. Okay, so moving on, we also have maximum, which is also quite telling. Let's say that I did maximum of y here. We should get an 8 right, hopefully, and we do. And this can also be used in strings. If we do that, we will get, let's say I did this on C2, we would get F returned. And let's say I actually switched these. Oh, I switched these around. And now I actually need to reload the code. And I do the same command, I will still get F. And that's because, let's say I do this. I do A is smaller than B. That is actually true. So characters basically have a value in Haskell. Same thing if we do big A. Oh, let's do a capital A is smaller than a small a. That's also true. Okay, so this is basically a way that we can also manipulate strings as well. But moving on, we also have minimum, which is of course the opposite. Let's say minimum of x will return 1, which is the smallest number. But let's say that we wanted to add lists together or add elements onto our list. Then we can use the ++ function. So let's say that I want to add these two lists. I want to add x to our y. Then I would just take x ++ y, and this would basically take the x list and basically merge that together with the y list. So you see here, our first 5 elements are our x list, and then followed by that is our y list, but now in one larger list. And this can of course be used on strings as well. If we just type this, you see that we have one of them and then the other followed. And we can also turn it around if we, let's say we wrote it the other way, the list will basically be swapped. But let's say that we wanted to add just one element, and this is where our lonely C here comes in. Let's say that we want to add C onto our list here. You might think that we can do this and add it to X, but this will actually return an error because the ++ function, you can see, couldn't match expected type list of ints, and this is just an int, right? So in this case, we can use the colon function, and then we can type X, and this will basically add. It's basically like a reverse head, sort of. It will basically add C first, well, before the list X, and then add that into the list. So yeah, these are just a few built-in functions. I would recommend studying them a bit. They are not super useful, but they are also quite handy to know at least. You can use them a little here and there. So yeah, that's it for today, and